Hi everyone. Someone suggested that I create a video to follow on from my previous videos about dipping cabochons into wet paint and also doing a swipe to create a skin. So I'm going to show you two things in this video. The first one is how to glue cabs to a skin, or cabochons to a skin. And the other thing is about how to glue the cabochons and the skins, or the cabochons that have been dipped, into trays. So just to start off with, I've got a skin here that I've done previously. It's been dried and cured for 7 days at least. And I've got a couple of cabochons which I'm going to glue onto the skin. I'm going to use rubbing alcohol to clean the flat side of the cabochons, just to make sure that there's no residue or like fingerprints, dirt, that sort of thing, anything that's going to affect the adhesion to the skin. So I'll just clean those and I'll let them dry for a minute. I'm also going to take a baby wipe and I'm going to clean a section of the skin that I want to glue the cabochons to. Now, that's to remove, again, any silicone particularly, because I use silicone in my skins. Also any fingerprints, dust, dirt marks, that sort of thing. So just give it a good rub over. You might get a little bit of paint come off on the skin, but it's not too drastic. I would not recommend cleaning the skin with the rubbing alcohol, because I found that it can take the paint straight off with one swipe. So if you want to keep your skin intact, I wouldn't recommend that. Okay, and I use diamond glaze. You can get it on eBay, or I think in the US you can get it in some stores as well. It's a water-based glue and it's really easy to work with. I put a fair amount of diamond glaze into the middle of the cabochon, and then once you've found a good spot on the skin, you just pop it down. I rub it around a little bit just to work out any air bubbles. Don't worry, you'll get some overflow around the outside, but that's easily fixed. And then just make sure that it's in place. If you're on a bit of an unlevel surface, it may start to slide a little, so just keep an eye on that until the glue sets a little bit. Same thing again with the other one, because I'm making a pair of earrings here. So just pop it down, move it around a little bit just to work out any air bubbles. If you don't work out the air bubbles, you get the silver spots, which some of you may have experienced, so you definitely want to work those out. If you want to clean up the excess, which I tend to do because it dries a little bit hard and shiny, and if I want to use the rest of the skin, especially some of it nearby, then I want to just clean that up a little bit so that there's no excess, or very little excess, on the outside. And that's pretty much it as far as the skins go. I leave them for 24 hours to dry, and then I just cut with nail scissors around them to cut them out, and try and cut it as close as possible to the edge of the cabochon, but you don't want to cut under the cabochon, because then you'll have a space when you put it into a tray. You can also get hole punches. I have some hole punches, and you could, if you have a hole punch that matches the size of the cabochon, you could just punch the shape out of the skin, and then same thing, just glue it straight onto the punched skin. This is freezer paper that I've got that the skin has been poured on. You can also do it on baking paper, or you might call it parchment paper in the US, and that just gives it a surface that if it gets glue on it, it'll just come straight off when it's dry. Okay, so that's gluing on the cabs onto the skins. So that one's done. I'm just going to switch that out. And I have some previously made cabochons here. The ones on the left are dips, as per my previous videos. The ones in the middle and on the right are glued on skins, like the one I just showed you, but obviously they've dried and I've trimmed them and cut them out. So I've just got a number of ranges there and the trays that they're going to go into. What I do is I use the baby wipe once again just to clean the inside of. I've got some stainless steel trays here, so I just clean the inside just again to get rid of any fingerprints or smudges, that sort of thing. And I also, on the back of the cab, I just gave that a wipe over, same deal, just to get rid of any leftover silicone and then 2 just any fingerprints and that sort of thing. So I'm just going to do these ones to show you. And I've already wiped out the trays previously. Now, some people use diamond glaze to glue the cabochons into the trays. I started doing that and I found I was getting a lot of trouble with the silver spots. And I did a couple of months of pretty rigorous trial and error and testing and that sort of thing. And I came to the conclusion that using the diamond glaze to glue the cabochons into the trays is causing the silver spots, in my opinion. You know when you've been in a warm bath and your fingertips wrinkle, the skin wrinkles? Diamond glaze is water-based and the paint is water-based, acrylic paint. And I believe it's a similar sort of effect when the two come into contact. The water-based glue softens the water-based acrylic skin and it starts to wrinkle just the same way as your fingers in the bath, which pulls it away from the glass of the cabochon, therefore creating the voids which create the silver spots. So what I do now instead is I use 5-minute epoxy to glue the cabochons into the trays. It comes in the pack of 2, the A part and the B part, just like the resin that you'd use for jewellery or paintings. This one's a 5-minute one, so it sets in 5 minutes, so you've got to be pretty quick. I'd recommend that if you're going to use this glue that you set out your cabochons first and make sure that they're in the orientation that you want to put them in, because you don't want to fiddle with it too much once you've made up the epoxy, because it will be setting as you're trying to work out which orientation you want the pendant to be in. Also, I recommend that you mix up the epoxy in small batches, because you don't want to waste a lot of glue if you do have a problem and you need to fix something and then the glue's drying while you're fixing that issue. So I'm just going to move this a little this way because we need a different orientation so that you can see the glue as well. Now with epoxy glue, just like resin, it's very important that you mix it up in equal parts. If you don't mix it in equal parts, it will not set properly. So this one is a new one and it's particularly running. Just a bead of each. Just pop them. I'm just using a plastic lid here. You know, it's upcycling or recycling or whatever, and I can use it a number of times all the way around and on the other side as well, so that you know, to use it as a surface to mix the glue. You just mix the two together for a minute until they're well combined. Depending on your sensitivity to smells, this particular epoxy, it's a new one that I'm using, it's quite strong, but some people use E6000. I started using E6000, which is probably similar, but it has carcinogen warnings, cancer warnings on it, so I don't use that anymore. It's particularly on the fumes, and I don't know about you, but I work pretty close up to my jewellery when I'm working on it, so the fumes are obviously going to get in my face, so I do not use that one anymore. Okay, so we just get a bead of the epoxy, smear it in the tray. I'm going to need a bit more because this is a big tray. This is a 40mm tray, or at least a 40mm cab. The tray's a bit bigger, I guess. Just a good decent smear in there. You don't want so much that it's going to ooze out the sides, but you do want enough that it's going to keep the cab in there. And then once you've got the cab in the right orientation that you want, you just pop it into the tray and Bob's your uncle. I'm just going to do the earrings, the matching earrings below. Because the glue is quite fluid, you might have the situation after it's been sitting for a minute that the cab starts to slide in the tray or move with gravity or whatever. So what I tend to do is I glue in my batch. I only do like maybe 5 at a time usually. And then I will go back and I will reorient the ones that I've already glued a couple of times, just to make sure that, you know, the space all around the outside of the cab is the same all the way around, because otherwise, because of the movement, they may move a little bit and not be in the right orientation anymore, or not, you know, not be evenly spaced around the outside. So just going back to this one, I'm just gonna just check it. Luckily these ones are a pretty solid fit. Oh, see that one I can still move. So you can reorient it a little bit, but these ones aren't going to be moving too much. It just depends on which trays and which cabs you've got. Sometimes there's a little bit of space around the edges, and it's hard to say whether they're going to be, you know, whether they're going to slide around too much or not. So that's those ones done. I'll just do another one with this batch over here in the bamboo tray that I've got. So again, just give it a good smear around. You don't really need to cover the whole tray particularly, because the bit in the middle will hold it, but maybe do a good amount so that it's going to hold it well. I'll pop that one in. The orientation like that. Which way is the camera facing? I'll turn it around this way so you can see it properly. And again, I'll just reorient that one for a few minutes until the glue actually sets. Back to these ones. Just make sure that they're in the right orientation, the one that I'd like. And that one again. And that is all there is to it. Again, I leave the glue for 24 hours to set, and then they're pretty much ready to go. If you get any diamond glaze or any epoxy on the cabs, after they're dry, all I do is just use a baby wipe or rubbing alcohol or acetone just on a cloth, and that will take off the any of the excess residue perfectly fine. So yeah, that's all for this video, I think. If you've got any questions, let me know. I'm more than happy to answer to the best of my knowledge. Okay, thanks for watching, guys. I will talk to you again soon. Okay, bye-bye.